Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Requiem in London. In this particular scene, Mr. Goodman is going to the heart of London to meet with other members of the board of Goodman Industries to get a plan for this yearly quarter, go over the past years of seeing how we've been doing, affecting not only ourselves when it comes to innovation, but our customers to make sure that they are properly cared for. And oh, excuse me, and that they are properly cared for. He is a bit concerned right now due to, well, the change in his disposition. He hopes that no problems will happen due to what he is now, and also that there's no extra eyes looking at this particular meeting. But he'll choose not to worry about it too much and just ride his taxi up to the meeting place.
You get out. You don't come to the City of London often. Kindred Kindred don't really well, unless you are among a chosen few, most kindred can't come here. It is barred, but to the eldest, most prestigious of kindred and certain select members of the Invictus, of the Unconquered. You've normally only seen it from a distance, but now you're here, heart of London itself. A buzzing morass of business, both done and yet to be made. A hive of modern architecture and high rises that are something of the architectural highlight of the city of London. There aren't really many buildings like them elsewhere in the city. In some ways, it's like you're in a slightly more artistic New York, but with a radius of about a mile, a square mile, as opposed to many hundreds. The office for Goodman Ltd is what the office is. Um, it's part of a small series of floors on one of these high rises. Into the building, you go to the reception. Lady looks sort of uh, late middle age. You know, she's probably crossed her 50th year. Hair starting to grey out. Got a few wrinkles on her now. Got the standard office attire on. She looks a bit tired. Not super happy to be here. Maybe this is a shift she normally does. But she'll look up to you when you approach. You say, "Yes, sir. May I help you?"
Oh, I'm Mr. Goodman. I'm here to find the meeting room for Goodman Pharmaceutical Industries.
One moment, Mr. Goodman. She begins to lethargically type on her computer. And after a series of rather long clicks and tapping on the keyboard, she'll turn back to you. 31st floor, just on the lift to your right. She'll just gesture to it again in a somewhat languid fashion.
He nods and says, "Thank you." And
Thank you. Have a good evening.
he will go to the lift, pressing the number to the 31st floor, while resting his back against the wall, somewhat staring at the lights as the doors begin to close, getting lost in thought.
Mm. It's a clean layout. It's the ceiling and floors are made up of white tiles, and it's just sort of a long series of windows. You can see the free entrances. So it's all quite upper class. Um, very very how to put it, minimalist aesthetic. But the lift is much more claustrophobic and less aesthetic. It's just a standard metallic lift with simple lights and mirror at the back. And you press the button for the 31st floor and you begin heading on up. Doesn't take you long. You head out into the main offices and you make your way past a series of desk rows, filled, of course, with computers that are using software that went out of date several years ago, including Vista.
Not unexpected. That's how companies
Yeah,
save on money.
rather rather grotesque aspect of business, if you don't mind me saying.
I was in IT, so I totally get your point.
Yeah, and you make your way over to the boardroom, which exists on the same floor. You know that the offices for your business cover several floors. They cover about three. You're currently on the top level. It's floors 31 to 29. This is basically the sort of the main administrative level.
He'll begin walking down the hallway, getting to the meeting room. He's kind of listening out to see if he's hearing, just in general, like people possibly discussing something or eating something in the room, or maybe in a few rooms past it. He's trying to just notice if, like, hey, if a lot of people around to be in this event, or is it literally just us?
The offices are largely closed. The lights are on, but there's nobody in the room. There's only the janitor, who is just ensuring that everything is clean and tidy. He's just going through everything. Um, its work, of course, ended several hours ago. Um, really, the board meeting is only occurring this late because you asked for it to do for it to be arranged in this manner. And only then, many members of the board have only really agreed to show up reticently, um, because you have requested it. Um, The meeting was meant to be in the middle of the day, but of course you can't have that. So
No,
it
can't
has
have
been
that.
it has been thrown back several hours. For you in particular, it is perhaps fortunate that many members of the board consider themselves a friend of yours, or perhaps it is because of your reputation within the industry, or your connections to Logan that have enabled you to arrange things in this manner. In any case, the arrangements have been made. But the only person currently here, outside of janitor, is Sir Laurel.
When Goodman sees her, there is a changes posture that seems a bit oddly enough, despite her not even being close as large as him, physically imposing. There is a guarded posture to him right now, and when he sees her, he simply will say, "Sister."
Julian, how are you doing? We haven't spoken in a while.
"Hmm, I've been going. Things have been going well. So it's staying the course, which is a good thing.
Hmm? Glad you've been doing well for yourself. May I ask, what have you been up to?
Uh,
Nobody's nobody really sees you around the offices or the lab anymore.
that's because I stay in the manufacturing area because nobody else is willing to volunteer. So someone wants to
Your
make sure
heart,
that they're doing what they need to be doing and things go well.
you're not exactly the manager of manufacturing, right? We have we have people in the business for that. You don't need to feel obligated.
So it was one of Father's first buildings. I wanted to be there.
It is your choice. Of course, you know you're free to use it. In fact, actually, yeah, I do recall Morrison did say, if I do recall, he did remark that you had been down there recently, dealing with looking into some substance you'd brought in, working on something. Anything new?
There is a moment's hesitation. He wasn't supposed to know that, but he will state. I was asked by the local establishment to help with their proceedings with a particular epidemic on the streets. They wanted my opinion on it,
The police. She raises an eyebrow and tilts her head. She actually gets a look of significant concern.
and he nods. I do find it odd. I'm very sure they have their own forensics group, but
I was going to say, I mean, it's not completely out of the ordinary for some time for the Met to sometimes outsource They've done so to us a couple of times, but I'm surprised they would have. I'm surprised they called you in by name.
Well, you're the financial expert. So I'm the pharmaceutical one.
Didn't know you were moonlighting.
Gotta keep my skills sharp.
I hope that's what it is. You do know if you're in trouble, you can always ask me for help.
That is new of you, but I appreciate that.
The family.
But I'm assuming, since I haven't got any new messages, that we're still in the black for the most part.
Yes, although there are a few matters of concern. It appears Chiron Group are looking into opening a new laboratory, trying to muscle in on our home ground, so to speak. They've been particularly vicious over the NHS contracts this year.
I see.
It's strange. They always seem to stick to the US. I suppose they're finally expanding. I mean, they have always had interests in the Africas as well, I suppose, but
America's medical system is highly funded, so in certain ways,
lucrative.
indeed, in certain ways, they are a bit of ahead of us.
Well, maybe all for the better that you are our chief manufacturer. Then they are something of they are the. Actually, you can actually roll. You can roll intelligence medicine to know about Chiron Group if you want.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I haven't done this in a while, but I should remember how to do this.
They deal very heavily in generics.
All right. One success.
Okay, you know Chiron Group. There. One second. You know, Chiron Group is Oh, never mind. Allow me to retract everything I said about them being not having interest in Europe. Lol. She will not have said any of that. Because you know, Chiron Group had its origins in a small pharmaceutical company in Europe. So yeah, my bad. They were founded by Edward Barrett in 1904. Very successful multinational pharmaceutical company. Deals heavily in medical supplies and pharmaceutical products. And they deal very heavily in generic drugs. They're generally perceived as a company whom one can buy in bulk from on very short notice. And you know that they got sued back in the day for by several by several religious organizations, largely Christian, stating the company was involved in satanic practices. The rumor of which kind of originated from their logo. Which vaguely resembled. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Caduceus or Caduceus. But the lawsuits failed, and means to say Chiron made something of a mint from it all. In fact, at least one televangelist went bankrupt from it, and Chiron gained a lot out of the publicity. But Laurel just continues. Yes, we do very heavily in generics. I must say, it's quite they're quite intimidating. They're much larger than us. They've already outbid us on several NHS contracts.
Man, we'll just need to make sure we give our customers a better reason to pick us. They can't strong arm everything.
Yes, we may need to restructure. But as you say, quality over quantity.
The other members, as he kind of looks around, they're in the room already.
No, no one else is here yet. But when you kind of think that when you sort of question where everybody else is, and you go to look at your watch, as if speaking of the devil, a few businessmen and women begin to leak into the room. They nod politely and walk in. You know them all by name. You shake their hand. They seem quite taken with Laurel. She gives a few of them French kisses, gives others light embraces. She seems very cozy with them. You can make me a wit socialize if you want.
That would be a chance die, but why not?
Mm-hmm.
Julian is not that of a social.
Mm.
No, it's
no. It just seems to be, Laurel's way of greeting people as opposed to sort of your more formal manner of doing things. She's always been a lot more sociable than you. She's always been very good with people. It's her main quality. She's not necessarily the intellectual like yourself. She's not unintelligent. In fact, she is. She does have a fair degree of medical knowledge, although her talents are mainly in business administration, financial management. And yeah, you'll sit down. She'll begin explaining everything to everyone, the situation, what the last quarters look like. She puts up a bunch of graphs. Not physically speaking, she basically has a laptop, but she just shows to people and passes moves it a bit further down the table so people can see. Last quarter was very strong. Business is doing well. It appears uh, her cost saving plans have gone quite well for the business. Although Chiron Group is a subject of some conversation between members of the board. Some people concerned whether they will simply just outbid and outspend Goodman until they are no longer capable of operating. Wonder if they should. Some wonder if they should restructure, as Laurel suggests, and a few consider whether it would be worth opening ties to a Chiron and see if a merger may be in the works. But it is a minority opinion for the moment. Premature.
But it is being thought of, which
It is considered. Chiron Group is very large. It's a multinational organization. It's it's like it's many ways like the Verizon of telecom. Oh, sorry, of medicine. Sorry, Verizon is telecom. That's what sort of Chiron Group represents in terms of their size and scale. Um, they are significantly larger than Goodman Ltd. Although Goodman is a significantly it's still a significantly large business. It is a national organization. It's just based in London. But yes, it is something that a couple of board members put on the table, but Laurel talks them out of it for the moment.
when she says that, there's a mild look of surprise, but he doesn't try to think too much of it. He's just happy she's against the idea right now.
She seems confident with you at the helm that when it comes to the manufacturing sector of the organization, that we'll find a way to nominally compete with them in terms of mass production and generics.
As they're discussing the logistics of the situation right now. Excuse me. You'll be able to kind of look between the board members, and is anybody that seems to be right now? That's for the best way to put it. Unusually quiet.
There are a couple of members who are just sort of who haven't really spoken. But it's not necessarily out of awkwardness or anything like that. It's more as if they just don't have anything to say.
Okay. I haven't directly been in major board meetings, but meetings with companies in general, unless the highest member is talking, everybody has something to say typically. And then as this is going on, then as he just kind of takes notice that, it's like, yeah, nothing too unusual.
Do you if you want to contribute to the discussion, you can, and you can roll intelligence, academics, finance would be the specialty, or you could roll intelligence, medicine with drugs as your specialty, to identify a way in which to identify a suggestion that may hold weight among members of the board. that may give you a means to deal with Chiron as the entity that they are?
Yeah, I'll do that. I guess the subject of the matter would be, and this is just a real experience I have, is discussing ways to make particular products more digestible, especially if it's been introduced to water. That there have been some cases where, with the drug that we're using now, it gets clumpy, it makes it uncomfortable for people to take. Sometimes it just doesn't go quick enough. We can make this as quick and safe as possible. That'd be best for us. All right, that's two.
Okay. So you know that Chiron has, needless to say, a fair number of subsidiaries. Although they themselves, they are not. They're not like a lot of multinational corporations that just sort of financially juggle all of these subsidiaries while they hoard up intellectual property. They're actually quite involved in the industry that they began in. Um, you know that Chiron deals very heavily in easily obtainable medical supplies and accessible drugs to medicine. Um, so, an avenue forward for the business in order to maintain its competitive edge may be to start investing in rarer conditions that require treatment and uh, more experimental substances. It may even be worth diversifying into recreationals.
And they bring up recreationals. Um, so we kind of want a bit of verification.
Um, the board and Laurel seem receptive to the idea of more experimental conditions. You list off um, a few niche illnesses. Some very obtuse and barely heard of. Others, the still rare but very much widely known, such as certain variations of certain variations of cancer and the like. Certain conditions like certain neurological conditions like epilepsy, and certain subsets of those conditions and illnesses and diseases. Laurel seems a bit taken aback at the idea of recreationals. You're not entirely sure of whether it's because she didn't consider it or whether she would consider it damaging to the business's reputation.
Uh,
She says, if we were to begin investing in the concept of recreational drug use or marketing, it would it would be a significant risk to our business's reputation. We could perhaps invest in a subsidiary that could take on the reputational hazards on our behalf, but that would come at significant expense.
Julia would chime in saying there is, um, when it comes to recreational drugs, like there's so very few markets as it is, and
It is a niche within the country. I look to it as more of an option of how to say. I look to it as a more global opportunity. You are correct.
hmm,
Needless to say, our roots in London and our history form much of our image and have are one of the main reasons we have as many opportunities as we do. Thanks to certain government programs, I would not wish for this to be put at risk at the because we might be simply because we might invest in this secondary industry. But again, if it is something that another organization can take on our behalf, then that is something much more doable, much more manageable. But it would I would need to see I would need to see a strong financial incentive for us to go down that particular path. Perhaps because you're the one who has suggested it, you may be able to give us some data on that. I know you're much more involved than the rest of us. I can tell financial management that you're coming down tomorrow if you want. Of course, you can't say yes to that.
yeah.
Um,
Julia would state always one of the major things I've always hear when dealing with product and dealing with customers is the partaking of whatever product they may be. Until this day, majority of companies, best way to put it, give up after a certain point. If we can make sure our product is easier and efficient to take for our customers, that's going to incentivize more people, well, for the common folk to buy it more often. It is surprising how many people will not buy or take certain medicines just simply because that doesn't go down easily, even though they could very much save their lives or make their sense of comfort much higher.
mm, yes, but these are details relevant to specific products. It is minutiae.
That's
We are here to paint in broader strokes, as it were,
true.
a much larger overarching plan for the next several financial quarters. Needless to say, I trust you to work on that, of course.
Yeah.
After all, I would dare say I know you. I know you better than most people here. She says, smiling. It is a slightly sly smile, but it earns a couple of chuckles. But she will go through the rest of the meeting with people. Goes over the plans for the next quarter. Some of your ideas take weight, some more than others. The idea of recreationals is a bit. It would be considered a significant expense in a lot of different ways. The business has never considered it. It doesn't specialize in those areas. They would need they would either need a means to purchase the means to produce said recreationals, or would need to invest in significant stretches of land and acreage to produce them. In addition to the political repercussions that may entail and reputational risks to their business. Um, including any, including the financial risks that involve the political risks. As you understand that the British government has never been too keen on recreational drugs in general. Legal highs do exist, and certain schemes do exist for them. But needless to say, the board has no interest in Goodman becoming a political football. A move such as this would probably make the news.
Yeah.
It would definitely make industry news, and from there probably leak out into national news. And they don't have much interest in that. But then you do know Laurel has political connections.
It's not like this is the final decision yet. We still have time to think about this.
Hmm. But they settle on a rough plan for the new year, for the next quarter. Do you want to make me another wit socialize roll?
Oh yeah. Chance dice all the way.
You can always spend willpower. Yeah, it kind of sucks that you're not good at this.
Yep.
Because you'd be getting some juicy deets.
Yes, it would. But to a point, I made this character for just that weakness in general. For situations like this, I'm not good
Yep.
at them. But hey, if you need something done, made, and get done and made, I'm your guy. But actually, the planning part, I don't know.
I'm talking to people? Ah, fuck.
You know, at best, if somebody gets uppity, I can possibly cow them, but that's about it.
Yep. You're big, scary, and pretty smart. But you're not very talkative, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yo, news.
Okay.
Nope, did make it.
Unfortunate. Actually, so yeah. Uh, there is a moment of silence where Laurel eyes the board in a way that you find a bit strange. You can't quite put your finger on why or what she's necessarily thinking. What you
Hmm.
can tell is that it really comes across as a bit strange. But once the meeting is adjourned, people begin to get up. She begins to see people off, say goodbye, just a whole hug and French kiss, and very sociable. She makes a joke about how eager everybody is to get out of here so late at night. She lightly blames you for it, and to be fair, it is literally your fault.
It is a little bit of my fault, but my
Well,
retort is not enough of the board members understand what the night shift goes through.
hmm,
Like you'll live.
but yeah, she makes a joke about it. People have a bit of a laugh at your expense. You socialize a little bit, but yeah, you've never been very good at this. This is why Laurel managed to get a hold of a business and not you. Not necessarily because she's smarter, but just because she just knows how to handle people a bit better. She just seems to have that winning smile, and, well, her looks help. She is quite a charismatic and eloquent individual.
When the meeting ends, Julia will kind of watch the people leave one by one. And about when they gets to the lower numbers, Julia will turn to L'Oreal and say, "Yeah, as strong as ever."
You need a strong hand if you're going to drive a business forward like this one.
Well, at least I'm glad we both agree that merging at this point would not be a good idea, nor going to a political minefield, just to make
No,
sure.
it. Hmm, I can see the merit in it. It would certainly. It would certainly put off the risk of actually having to contend with them. But I believe with sort of proper direction, restructuring, and innovation, we should be able to secure our future for at least the next decade or two. Dad did a very good job of getting this place to where it is. I have no intention of giving up what he's built.
Julian will nod. I wouldn't want us to end up being like a lot of children getting businesses from people. In a short amount of time, it goes bankrupt. So many names, so many places that go downhill. I don't want us that. I don't want that to be us.
Well, I guess you could say he built it just well enough for us to be comfortable, but just flimsy enough for us to be careful.
Well, if we do this right, I'm not saying that we should be any less careful, but the place will thrive.
Besides, even if we were the next Chiron, I have no intention of resting on my laurels. I have goals.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, what are your goals, Julian? Rarely speak anymore. It's
Well,
always business between you and me now.
outside of obviously, as I stated, making more efficient products. These days, I'm trying to read more.
Yeah.
I may have my degree, but there's still weaknesses that I have that I like to work on.
Yes, you've always been the one with the eye for detail. The I was going to call you an artist, but, well, not sure if what
Um,
we do is really art, is it? It is very much a business. Then again,
it could be considered art through a certain perspective, but I prefer to think of myself as the older generation of engineers back when they actually made things. These days,
automation is on its way. It is something of a dying craft. It already takes up many aspects of our business.
it does. And besides that, what I talked to Miss Nim recently. Needed help researching some things.
Auntie, why? What's she looking into?
No, it was about the drug that's on the streets. I wanted her advice.
Violet. Oh, interesting. Why? Why are you looking into that?
That's what the police asked me to look into.
Hmm. You want to make a manipulation subterfuge roll on that?
Well, it's technically not. It's technically true. They are contra the police.
Technically true, but she is suspicious of you. I will. 1 second. I'm going to actually check up what lying is.
Either way, it is most likely got to be a chance die for me.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Let me double check. See if.
Unless I want to be really rude to her, take this as a challenge, and try to intimidate her to be quiet about it. Which I don't think that's a good thing to do.
Okay, you can roll. You can roll your manipulation plus subterfuge minus her composure, which is free because she's carefully considering you.
Nope. Yep, that is a chance dice, unless I want to be mean about it.
You can spend a willpower if you need to.
I
Three
believe my
dice, your odds on for at least one success.
let's see. My willpower is at 2 right now. So I'm gonna have to say no. I will play into the role of being socially inept and just hope for the best. I made it a success.
That was a chance die, right?
Yeah.
So only 10. So on chance dice, ones are dramatic failures and tens are successes. 8 and 9s are not considered successes on chance die.
All right, then that is still
If
a
you're
failure.
reduced to one dice, then it's a standard dice. It's just one. If you're reduced to 0 dice, you roll the chance dice, and then you need to get a 10.
No, yeah, this would be a chance
So
die because my manipulation is only 2.
it's very unfortunate. You almost got it.
Almost.
Okay. She raises an eyebrow and stares at you for a few moments. And then she simply says, okay, well, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
No, there's an interesting person I met recently.
Oh, someone
Yes.
that's not around.
Yeah. I'm investing some time and resources into him. So we could have a possibly strong person to work with when it comes to security.
Well, security. It's not really a major concern of ours. But what do you mean?
There have been, let's just say, occurrences I've been noticing, especially with this epidemic. So, not necessarily pharmaceutical companies are big on the demand of rating, but it does concern me.
Well, I wouldn't consider that a huge concern.
It's not a huge one, but more than anything, there was a man down his luck, and I saw potential in him, so I wanted to give him a chance.
Hmm, how charitable of you. Well, I assume you're going to have them work in what head security manager. Where do you intend for them to work exactly? I mean, if it's just one person, it's not like they can stand outside
No,
every pharmacy we own in the city.
this is a small group.
Well, as long as it's your money, she says.
That it is. So this is a personal endeavor that might get into something bigger.
She says. She smiles at you. It was intended as a joke, not necessarily to insult you. Well, I'll leave you to it. We should definitely see each other more outside of work, though. I don't like leaving my stepbrother out in the cold.
Hmm. Well,
Let's catch dinner sometime. You around next week?
I can be.
Good. Give us a chance to reconnect. You always spend such. You always spend all your time either, well, God knows where, or of Auntie Nim now.
I've never been much of a sociable person, so just keep to myself.
Well, you're not going to sell any of your ideas if you don't reach out, but I suppose that's what I'm here for.
He just kind of meekly nods to that. So, I'll just make sure that we have the product ready.
I'm sure. If I can ask, why did you want the meeting so late? It was awfully inconvenient.
As I sent to the message to the board, we don't give enough respect to our night shift employees. They complain constantly that none of the people that are in charge of them ever come at night to actually talk to them. Instead, they have to spend more time not being with their families or being at home, waiting around for them to show up in the morning, go through the meeting, feel like their time is being wasted, then go home.
Julian, our night shift staff are the bloody cleaners. You, you don't have to take the PR tack with me. You're not any good at it anyway.
It's what I'm used to doing. So I typically just operate at night.
It's not good to keep secrets from your sister, you know.
I'm sure there's things you don't tell me about.
Well, I definitely say you know me a lot better than I know you. Which I'll be honest, I don't always appreciate. But if I keep this up, I'm going to ruin our lovely dinner in a week's time. So I'll leave you with that, Malon.
Okay.
Be seeing you, Julian, and please do keep in touch. I can't sell your ideas if you keep them all from me. And as she says that, she'll begin to walk off, take the lift down.
When she begins to move down, Julian kind of, not necessarily, um, not necessarily deeply, but kind of grinds his teeth a little. Not necessarily in like dramatic irritation, just more like, oh, she's right on one thing. I'm a terrible liar, and I could have done that better. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. But I think that's a good place for us to end the scene.
Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Have a good morning, evening, or afternoon.